So the Knicks get to celebrate their first conference finals in 25 years, whereas the Sixers and their fans get to bitch to each other and argue on Twitter about 18-year-olds for the next month. Sixers fans, we really do live in the bad timeline, and if I'm just going to sound super negative the entire video, so be it. I'm keeping it 100, and that's what we do here on NZ for 3. We keep it 100 and give pure, authentic sports commentary. But yeah, the Celtics got their ass beat by the Knicks, like just flat out demolition. And you got to give the Knicks credit, man. You know, Knicks fans are probably going to go bitch in the comments no matter what I say, but you got to give them credit. They made the right moves. You know, whether you could say that, you know, trading 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges, that was a good idea. It's kind of looking at like it right now because the Knicks, they have a shot to make the NBA Finals. And Bridges, you know, he's had his up and downs there, but he has been, you know, coming in clutch for them as of late. And Karl-Anthony Towns, too. That was a great move. I always thought it was a good move, a good win-now move for the Knicks, and it's panning out really well for them. He's been playing well next to Jalen Brunson, who's been playing like a superstar. The Knicks, man, they're coherent. They play together. It's a team mentality. Yeah, it revolves around Brunson, but they know what they're doing, man. And they got some good depth pieces as well, like McBride and Mitchell Robinson, campaign too. They got a good team. The Knicks have a good team, and I gotta admit, I was rooting for the Celtics. I was rooting for the Celtics because with the Knicks winning, the Sixers are now just really lonely. And, like, it's just kind of, like, sad to see that the fact that they are, like, side by side with the Washington Wizards and the Charlotte Hornets, two, you know, really prestigious NBA franchises for sure. You know, two teams that are just, you know, I'm just joking, but two teams that are complete jokes that nobody takes seriously whatsoever. The fact that the Sixers now have the third longest Eastern Conference Finals drought, it's sad, bro. It's just sad. And, like, all the freak injuries that happened to Embiid with the Sixers, man, it's both stuff that was in their control and stuff out of their control. You know, you can point to all the Embiid injuries and, you know, Markelle Fultz getting injured and whether the process was worth it or whatever. Yeah, we could talk about that all we want. But even with the stuff that the Sixers could not control, I still think that they should have made the conference finals at least once in the Joel Embiid era. And there are 2 years for me that really stand out in particular. It was 2021 against the Atlanta Hawks where that Hawks team wasn't good. They weren't good, bro. You blew a 26-point lead to 85-year-old Lou Williams in Game 5. Like, that's ridiculous. I know Ben Simmons was shitting his pants, but regardless, the Sixers still should have won that series. That was, and I know Embiid had, you know, meniscus problems too, but still, you should have won that series. There's just flat out no excuses. Yeah, Ben Simmons sucks. We all know that, but you still should have made the conference finals. Then what? I mean, 2023 against the Celtics as well. You had the Celtics on the ropes. You had them backed into a corner. You're up 3-2. And, you know, you had guys like George Niang and Jalen McDaniels coming off your bench. You had no depth whatsoever. But still, you're still able to, you know, finally punch the Celtics in the mouth, give them the, you know, the knockout punch, and finally squash those demons of, you know, how the Celtics own the Sixers and the Celtics own Embiid and whatever. You had your chance to beat the Celtics, man. And that Celtics team in 2023, they were still stacked. They had freaking Malcolm Brogdon coming off their bench, and I think he won Sixth Man of the Year that year. I mean, the Celtics were deep. They were still a really good team before they just became a flat-out super team, and they would win the championship a year later. But the Sixers, they still had a chance to win that series, but Embiid and Harden and the rest of the team pretty much, they shit their pants in Game 6 at home. And then they were actually keeping it kind of close at halftime in Game 7, but then they just roll over and die. And the New York Knicks, man, you got to give them credit. You got to give them credit. They beat the Boston Celtics. And people are going to say, oh, you know, Jason Tatum was injured, and Tatum was secretly the Celtics' best player all along. Tatum was playing like shit the entire series, and the Knicks were up 3-1, even with Tatum playing. And so the Knicks, they beat the Boston Celtics pretty much, like, for the most part, fully healthy. And I don't think the Celtics were to come back either way, just for the fact that they looked broken out there. The Knicks broke the Celtics, and the Celtics, they just had no response because all they do is just chuck threes left and right like a 4-year-old playing 2K. And, yeah, just to see the Boston Celtics finally get beat, something the Sixers could not do, is it's satisfying, man. But then you got the Knicks. You got the Knicks heading to the conference finals. And I was, I said that, like, the Sixers are now super lonely. And they're super lonely because you have all these teams that were kind of competing in the Eastern Conference for the past, I don't know, maybe like 7-8 years or so. I mean, you have the Celtics, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors, they won a championship, Bucks championship, Celtics championship. The Miami Heat, they were in the conference finals for a while. And you have teams like the Indiana Pacers and the Atlanta Hawks as well, young, scrappy teams, making a name for themselves in the NBA and getting themselves to the conference finals, whereas you have the Sixers year after year just have such embarrassing performances and such bad luck too. I mean, yeah, the Sixers, they are probably one of the most, delusional organizations in the league. And you could say that with some of the decisions that they did make, like giving Al Horford that big of a contract or giving Tobias Harris that big of a contract, that, yeah, they probably never even deserved to be in the conference finals in the first place. Maybe, yeah, but still, like, they had the opportunity to make the conference finals, and it's just really interesting to see how much the Eastern Conference is starting to shift. You got teams like, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Like, no one really takes them seriously. Of course, they won like 60-plus games. I said that they're at least going to make the conference finals probably, but that was like their ceiling. They got humiliated by the Indiana Pacers. They still should not have gotten their ass whooped as much as they did, even when they were having some injury problems as well. Cleveland was, I think, like Darius Garland. They're missing like some of their key guys too, but the Pacers, they still destroyed them. Nothing was going to change no matter what, because you could just tell, like, in that Knicks game, man, where they whooped the Celtics, it was over right from the jump. It was over right from the jump because the Celtics, when they're not hitting the three-point shot, they can literally do nothing. And admittedly, with Tatum going down, that is huge because he does draw so much attention from the defense, and it's naturally harder for the Celtics to create shots. And he did have like 40 or so points the game he got injured, so I got to be fair there. So he wasn't bad the entire series, but nonetheless, the Celtics still lost that game, even with Tatum going off. So there really aren't any excuses, really, with Tatum playing or Tatum not playing. The Celtics still should have had control of that series. They should not have blown those leads. The Knicks, they just outplayed the Celtics. They exploited their weaknesses, and they had, Derek White. They needed Derek White to go off for 34 points for them to win a game. And, of course, because he wasn't playing the 76ers, he wasn't going to repeat that, and he just didn't show up in Game 7. And their one-dimensional style of play of just chucking threes, that wasn't going to go away with Tatum playing, with Tatum not playing, and that's pretty much what done the Celtics in. They got way too airheaded, way too full of themselves, and the Knicks, they took advantage of that, and now they're in the conference finals, while the Sixers are out here looking to select a prospect that will one day maybe hopefully get them to the conference finals. And I guess that is like the one silver lining with how garbage this season has been. As long as whoever is getting picked by the Sixers, if he pans out, that'd be awesome. And if maybe the Sixers could have 1 year where Joel Embiid is fully healthy, and maybe Paul George and the rest of their soon to be retirees, they don't just suck ass the entire season, maybe the Sixers will have a chance. But I don't think anybody can really trust the Sixers at this point. But I'll keep rooting for them because I am a psychopath. But be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. That is enough of my rant. Yeah, peace.